Welcome to Gerald Johan van der Waals educational channel related with the books that are named Sounding Form. There are also two separate volumes because you have the large book, Sounding Form Methodical Synesthesia, it is called, and the development of the word and the application of the word, the two separate volumes. They are available as well. First one is the theory, how we can learn the theory gradually, some practical examples as well, and some studies, how you come to this, all the variations, and then the application of the word with some studies that are involved in scripts most of the time. So how is this method perceived? I don't see it as a rational theory, not that it can be derived rationally, but that's why I associate it with the synesthesia, although it has been said that this is very much associated with a neurological condition and it doesn't attract the right people in that way. Now there is a sense in our perception that we can use, and we have to combine it with some of the other senses and our forms of organization in our brain. And the way how we do that I will explain here much better. So maybe another term is better, but I will call it a synthesis then of certain forms of perception, and it can you can come to a rational theory in the end. So the first thing we do is, of course, hear the words, so the sounds of the words. They are perceived in our ears, and there, by connecting it to the brain, we make distinction of these sounds. This distinction finally will lead, thanks to this theory as well, to a recognition of patterns. This recognition of patterns is immediately visualized, and that makes up a reflection of the same thing that you can hear reflected to the visual part, but it goes even further than that. I will explain you just in a minute. So what do we hear? So we hear, of course, the stops and the starts in letters. Also the heights of the sounds, the sound waves, that we can hear this as well. And we know, of course, from the spectrograms there are three different regions that are very important. It's the foundation, it's where the things are evolving into a more pronounceable form, and then the feedback region on top. These three regions are also connected with the whole series of letters and three categories of letters as well. So the first ones, the first letters from A until X in the Pythagorean order, so the numerical order, they are all about space, the very narrow, stable space, and all the forms that we can recognize there. When they are enlarged, you have the other letters, and evolving, there's all the letters between D and G. And when you are really changing things and adapting to some changes, you have the last couple of letters that fit to that. And these also fit to these three regions, so we can hear them, where they are, where they're heading to, and what's their functions. It's unconsciously, but I can make it consciously, gradually also for everybody. So here are some examples, so I can distinct some distances in spaces, some formations of forms, and some extra additions in the letters, so I can hear them and I can visualize them. How they are combined, that's another matter. So this is the distinctions are separately, they are separate in our perception, but to combine it, we do that automatically in our brain, and then we connect the dots actually. So we can learn not only how they hang together, but also their connections have an underlying meaning of formation that is not just random, but is also describing exactly what the letters are about. And I will give some examples how it works. But what is also important to know is this combining of the dots. Maybe in our language it is unconsciously, but it takes lot more effort to do that consciously, as I do so. All these combinations are meant that we can recognize certain patterns, so that these patterns are formed, and in a way they are formed in just the way as facial recognition is formed, and you form these words as elements that have a certain way how they hang together. They work exactly the same way, even if we're not that conscious about them. I will tell you that if you really focus on them, you gradually will also learn that it is really part of our understandings in an unconscious way then, but we deal with them actually. So they lead, of course, this kind of connection, they lead to a pattern of recognition, and we connect the dots. Not immediately, so we don't see the full thing. We do that separately by checking out the features of the object that we try to focus upon. So we will pay attention to not to the how it connected, not that much, but where we can recognize the separate parts. Until we find a match, and then we immediately associate the correct object, subject, or direction with it. It all has to do with these three regions, so we organize our mind at the space where we start from. From this space we develop something, and we change the direction of where we are heading to. Not much more, it's always these three regions. For doing this deliberately, how they match or how they are combined, it needs a lot more than the recognition of patterns into a recognizable form, but it really asks a lot of our solution mind thinking, and we have to combine and calculate in our mind how we combine these letters separately, these focuses separately. Actually, the way how they combine, they also follow the same rules, the rules of distinction. So how it is the distinction, what kind of distances are followed, how they are formed, what kind of changes they are. So certain combinations of letters also have underneath a direction like that already directs us into a certain way of changing our mind into a certain direction. So we orientate ourselves into something, we build up something, and we add an element of change. In every word, in every language, in every reasoning, this pattern is also found. And there has to be a great unity if we really want to do this consciously. It fuels also our language, so which direction we are thinking, which direction which words choices we make, they're all fueling the directions in them. So this fueling of directions is seeking out solutions, how they work better as combinations, not just literally as words that mathematically hang together. Also, of course, in our language, the same kind of patterns are there as well. The intentions are felt, the intentions why this specific word is chosen, why this direction is chosen, is also felt and dealt with in our minds, unconsciously until so far. So this rule of three is very important because it's actually very simple. It's our mind wants something simple because we make very complex combinations, but we have always something that immediately knows where to go to the right, to the left, yes, no. Very simple solutions. The rule of three is this as well. So we have a starting point, we have a way to combine some things, and we have ways to change. We have the space which is maintaining its form, or the forms are evolving to something else, or we find an adaptation. So these three parts, they also make an alertness in our mind that directs us to another way of dealing with it. We have an orientation, a formation, or a reaction. And so the first part is, of course, like the words that we hear and we try to distinct them. It's all about space, spatial orientation. Once we found much where it is heading to, we can make a form with it, so we can develop it further. And if it's really developed and we need to change something, we respond and change something and adapt to something else. That's then the third part that can be extended in here. So the last thing I say about it here, so we start now to make an example. And this example, of course, starts from the in the rule of three at the first stage. We first start to recognize an orientation in space. How do we recognize the words? Where are the spaces? Where are the places? From where to where is everything going? It's the material that we have to find in space first before we can develop it further into a materialization or give it a direction. So what do we need is simply our perception. Our perception works actually very simple. And it is a kind of alertness in here, and I will try to explain it. I already gave it away in one of the first videos. I will give it away again. It is part of my theory. It's underlying the theory. It's not the most important part of my theory, but if you understand it, that's how our brains work, and that's where we start from. So we try to focus ourselves in space and recognize the A in the middle. Once there's more distinction, we actualize the distinction and the distinction itself into one object is the next letter T. If there's really a difference, even not just an element, but a difference, we have the K. A distinctive distance. And the second object becomes something different from a certain point. It becomes the U. It starts to disconnect itself, but it is still connected with L. It is disconnecting with the B. There is a disconnection visible with the C. You can measure it from one place to another as if the space itself has a meaning as well with the M. The space makes distances that they are really something is going away from the starting viewpoint with the X. And then we come to the second category. So you can also focus on what is forming itself into our perception field. The formal distinction starts from the D and Y, O, Z, E, W, G, F, P. And the third category tries to find conclusions, starting from the Q, and changes, the V. So now some examples. I also used these examples in one of the earliest videos, but I will do that again. I will use my this recognition. These were the way how we recognize the letters, with some distances and proportions, and we can use this as a kind of facial recognition in objects. And I did that with a few words like cushion and pillow. And there I recognized how much distance there are and how much there are differences between certain spaces. So for example, the pillow, I will use the word pillow, so I recognize there where are the differences in spaces and how their connections are, how much space there is. So we recognize that very easily, very quickly in our mind. We hear a certain distance, and we can visualize this distance. But I will explain it a little bit better so that you can also make a distinction between the different types of letters. The P here will and the L are about the first category of letters. They will make certain different proportions of distances. P will make a larger distance, so it will really put something away, putting something on the difference. The L is more stable because it just says here are some differences. The I in the middle and the O are orientations, and the W is one of the deviations, the last category. And these could eventually go to the next stage, not just the recognition of patterns, but also the formation. So we can also try to combine these letters, and this needs, of course, our next step in our brain, in our perception. We not only have the hearing that we can visualize as well, that's the next step. We also have to organize it that the visualization finds the solution, how we combine these qualities, and that I will do here. We will start with the P and end with the W. So the W's are, of course, everywhere because it's the effect. So we start with the pressure from P. This pressure is going into the object and into with the I an object of space with the O and the W as the effect. So with the L in the larger area that we are connecting to. When we succeed in doing this, in this making this synthesis of combining the functions that are in the letters themselves, we create the extra associated functions that are present in the word. So the P will cause, by combination, mixed functions. So the pressure will be at the W. So in a soft way of pressure, it will create at the end a woolly or loose effect of pressure. Because of the E, it will have a pressure inwards. Because of the O, it will have a hollow effect inwardly as well. So the cause is the first letter, of course, the P from pillow. The effect is the last letter, or the W. So that's the loose, hanging together form. So what will it do? Onto the L, onto the whole space, it will have this loosely moving effect pressure. And we have the extra inwards pressure, and a hollow effect also inwardly. So with a starting point of the P and with an effect of the W, we have here actually an object which has very much a physical effect, and this is the useful function that it is, and it is expressing this exactly as pillow. As you can see here, expressed with the pressures into smaller and larger scales. So there are, again, I will repeat myself last time, there are three categories in letters of perception. You have the spatial orientations, that's what we start from. I had a larger section here. The formation, so where it is evolving, it's resulting, and the changes. But always try to see where we end to, because there we are receptive and adaptive, and there we can see what is really changing there exactly in that moment in time. So for pillow, we have also these three types of letters in it. The L is the spatial orientation. With the double L, you see which space it is. The P is in the formation zone, so it is. So you see something is pressed out into a different direction. And the O is the form itself. The formation in the form is into the O, into a hollow space, more or less hollow. And the changes, they occur in the E and in the W. The E is inserting, going out, and the W is loosely hanging onto it. This can be used as a kind of double check. I will best not to use it as a foundation, how to know what words are, because then it will be too intellectual and too rationalizing what is really going on. So in other words, so we have this enlarged space, something pushed out, something hollow, a potential insertion, and a looser outer effect. These are the qualities, the functions that are combined in the pillow. So here combined, you have, of course, this loose effect at the edges, and the pressing in the certain hollowness, pressing in, pressing out. It is movable. It is quite loose because of the W. This pressure is not constant. It is moving in, out because of the E as well, and it is very loose. And this is actually the kind of structure how the pillow is working. The pillow is working in that way. So it's a very good description of what a pillow is. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is something, there's a small part of it explained in sound in form, but without connecting it to how we can use it in reality. But here I had an example. And of course, here are the two other books last time as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you check the other videos out soon, or you can just subscribe and check my books out, or check my website out. Here it is. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.